Thank you for joining us. The webinar will begin shortly. Hello, thank you for being here. We will begin the demo webinar shortly. We're just waiting on a few more folks to join. Hello and welcome to today's SafeBreach demo webinar. My name is Steve Shepard. I'm a senior sales engineer here at SafeBreach, and I'm happy to be your host for today's webinar. Joining me today, we have Shira Akov, product manager of SafeBreach, and Tomer Bar, security research team lead at SafeBreach. We ask that you please submit all your questions via the Q&A function, and we'll answer them after the webinars and the demos are completed. Here's how we have today's presentation structured. We're going to cover what is breach and attack simulation, how breach and attack simulation helps you operationalize security frameworks like MITRE, ATT&CK, and NIST. And we're also going to show you new features with inside the product. And we're also going to show you recent additions that we've made to the Hackers Playbook and then cover any questions and answers. So what is breach and attack simulation? If you're joining today's webinar, you might be familiar with the breach and attack simulation space. But what it is a solution that allows enterprises to continuously and consistently safely simulate the full attack cycle within your environments, including infiltration, insider threats, lateral movements, and data exfiltration, and then run these simulations against enterprise infrastructure controls. And we do this by using software agents, virtual machines, and other methods inside of our playbooks. This allows you to alert IT business stakeholders about existing gaps in security posture and validate infrastructure and configuration settings and detection and prevention technologies, and making sure that they're operating in the way that they are intended to operate. We also complement red team and pen testing exercises. We do this by simulating all the tactics, techniques, and procedures to test your defenses. With the data-driven results, we visualize all the exposures within your environment. We also integrate into vulnerability management solutions like Qualys, Tenable, and Rapid7 to provide you a prioritized list of vulnerabilities that are exploitable in your environment. With the results, we can also provide insights that will allow you to holistically remediate and defend your enterprise. A couple things to point out here is that Gartner has shown that breach and attack simulation is one of the top security and risk trends for 2021. They pointed out that these tools will help immediately identify issues when it comes to the efficacy of security control, configuration issues, and detection capabilities. The International Data Corporation, or IDC, also states that breach and attack simulation is critical to the testing efficacy of the security controls. breach and attack simulation will become an important component of an enterprise cyber defense strategy. So we're going to go into the product demo of MITRE ATT&CK and NIST, and we're going to cover what MITRE ATT&CK is and how we use it inside of our products. And then we're going to move into NIST and also show you how to run simulations using these different types of controls and then also visualize them. The MITRE ATT&CK framework is a curated knowledge base and model for cyber adversary behavior, reflecting the various phases of adversaries, attack life cycles, and the platforms that are known to be targeted. SafeBreach mimics or mirrors the MITRE ATT&CK framework inside of our MITRE ATT&CK board, allowing you to summarize and visualize the findings and tactics from the results that are driven from the simulations that are run, allowing you to filter in by tactics, techniques, and sub-techniques, and query the findings and highlight different layers that allow you to understand different risk scores. We also allow you to view the tactic summary and zoom in on the results of those. You can filter these by these tactics, techniques, and sub-techniques, and then drill down and see what was missed and what was not. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot into our platform so you can actually see how we do this. So with over 21,000 different breach methods, we're able to go into our SafeBreach Playbook, and then we're able to go down into our filters. You can simply select by MITRE tactics, or you can go into more granular phase using the tactics, MITRE techniques, and sub-techniques. Here, you can go ahead and start filtering out or allowing the things that you want to see inside of the playbook. And then it will allow you to see the different attacks that are associated to these different MITRE techniques. If there are sub-techniques that you want to select, you can also go ahead and select different sub-techniques. For instance, web shell or SSH. You can also go into any of the other areas of the sub-techniques. Or if there are different techniques you want to do, you can also select those different techniques. Once you're able to set up the filters the way you want, you can go ahead, select the test that you want to run, and click on Run. Very simple, and it will run against all the deployed simulators in the environment. From there, we're able to pull results inside of our simulations results tabs. Here, you can see what was stopped, what was missed, detected, and prevented. You can go down into classification, and you can actually filter the results out by the different tactics, techniques, and sub-techniques. We also, as stated before, we have the MITRE ATT&CK heat map that allows you to filter these visualizations however you want. So if you wanted to focus on credential access or command and control, you can simply select those and apply your filters, and then you can visualize the findings inside of the heat map. You can also visualize them by the techniques or the sub-techniques as well. So if there is anything you wanted to focus on, like credential dumping, remote services, or any kind of network sniffing, you can go ahead and select those, and they would also apply to the MITRE ATT&CK framework heat map. For those of you that are familiar with the MITRE Navigator, you can easily download or export the MITRE JSON and then upload it to the Navigator. All you have to do is simply open up the Navigator from our platform and open it and upload it from your machine, and you can go ahead and select that, and it will go ahead and add it to the full MITRE ATT&CK framework heat map. From there, you're able to pivot into it however you want, and you can see the risk scores that are associated. And you can select on the darker the red, the higher the risk score. So based off of the simulations that have ran in the environment, you can see that 100% was not blocked by different areas that are deeper red. You can also select different layers of high, medium, and low. So maybe you would only want to focus on the highs, or possibly the mediums or the lows. We also have the ability to select detection that will allow you to see the detection scores that are associated to the MITRE ATT&CK framework based off of how well your security controls are detecting these attacks within inside your environment. So let's talk about NIST 853. The National Institute of Standards and Technology is a non-regulatory agency of the U.S. Department of Commerce with a mission to promote industrial innovation, industrial competitiveness. Here, when you talk about NIST frameworks, we could be referring to cybersecurity frameworks, security control frameworks, and risk management. But the NIST 853 is a robust security control framework with over 800 different controls and enhancements. So NIST 853 is highly granular in its coverage of topics from settings to physical security to asset management, HR, and legal. With SafeBreach, you can visualize and analyze the test results related to NIST 853 and apply them to the MITRE heat map and dedicated dashboards. The NIST control allows filtering accordingly to the NIST 853 standards, revision 5s, for controls that are mapped to SafeBreach attack-based attacks, and also relevant MITRE attack classifications. The NIST control enhancements provide you the enhancements that refer to additional control capabilities to augment and increase the strength of the basic controls. Here, we're going to go ahead and go back into our dashboard or into our platform, and we're going to be able to see how we can accomplish this. So just as we shown inside the simulation results and also the SafeBreach Playbook, you're going to be able to filter out different attacks based off of NIST control or NIST enhancements. So you can select any of the different types of controls that you want to see. So if it's least privilege or separation of duties, system use notification, device locks, you can select as many as you want and then apply them to the attacks that are available. And again, you can select these and then you can run them against the simulators that are deployed in your environment. If there are other areas that you want as far as NIST control enhancements, you can also filter those and apply those to the attacks that are available inside the breach methods. With the results, you can then pivot into the results, and under classifications, you can actually drill down into the results according to the NIST control and select any of the ones that you would like. It's device lock, least privilege, you can apply those to the results that have been provided. And then you can apply the filters and then drill down into the results. Here you're going to be able to see all the simulation workflows, the parameters, and the classifications of each result. You can then here see what MITRE tactic, technique, and sub-technique are applied, and any NIST controls that are applied, and threat names and industries. You can also apply this to the MITRE attack framework heat map. So if there are any additional types of NIST controls that you want, you can go ahead and apply those as well. You can select and deselect any of these, apply the filters, and then see how it visualizes inside the MITRE attack heat map. Again, you can also look at the detailed view, or you can go ahead and look at the heat map view, and you can download this to a JSON and apply it to the MITRE Navigator. We also have dashboards that we've created as well to allow you more visualizations. So within NIST 853, you're able to look at validations of what was detected, what was missed. You're also able to break it down by NIST families as well. So these different families, you can see what was stopped, what was prevented, what was detected. And you can drill down into each one of these. So if there was something that was detected and not blocked, you can easily go into those results from the dashboard. You can export this to CSV, and then you can view the results inside of the results page. You can see the simulation steps of what the attacker did, and then once it reached the target, what it actually executed inside there. You're also able to go into different areas of the dashboards and apply different methods or different plans that you would want to do. These are very easily to be edited, and you can create your own. We can also look at other dashboards that apply to MITRE. So if you want to see top MITRE techniques and that are not blocked, you can easily build dashboards for that as well. And you can edit them however you'd like. You can also see MITRE tactics that are by different, status breakdown by different MITRE tactics as well. So next, we're going to talk about recent releases and new features. I'm going to turn it over to Shira Akove, a SafeBreach product manager, and she's going to focus on different techniques, updates, and additions, and then to MITRE V9, and then also talk about how new container attacks are applied, and also cloud service providers and techniques are also applied as well. So Shira, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Sure, great. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, so as Steve mentioned, we have been busy these past few weeks working on updating our platform according to the MITRE V9 updates that were recently released, I think towards the end of April. So this release included several updates. First of all, there were some technique updates and additions, new techniques, new sub-techniques, new threat groups, and new malware assigned to those threat groups. So of course, we made sure to add those new components in and tag all of our attacks accordingly so that we comply with the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So we've done all of that addition and all that additional tagging. Additionally, as part of the MITRE V9 update, MITRE ATT&CK has also added the attack for containers framework. So actually, SafeBreach has supported container attacks even before this. But of course, once the MITRE organization and ATT&CK added these container-related attacks as well, we made sure to tag our attacks accordingly, according to these relevant techniques and sub-techniques so that we're aligned. As you can see here on the slide, the little visual at the bottom, it's also possible to filter the simulations that are related to the container attacks within the MITRE ATT&CK heat map that Steve showed us previously. So these are all great additions, and we're constantly making sure to enhance our attacks with as many tags as we can, make sure that we comply with the attack framework, both in terms of the techniques, tactics, and threat groups. So that's another part. As far as I know, also SafeBreach is the only BAS vendor that does support the container attacks. So we're making sure to, we're constantly enhancing our coverage and making sure that, we have as many attacks as possible from our side. So one of the last additional updates that were part of the MITRE V9 is some changes that were made in terms of how MITRE groups the different cloud attacks. So they've kind of aggregated them to be agnostic in terms of which cloud provider it comes from. Cloud attacks as well are supported in SafeBreach. So we also have certain cloud attacks that we currently support and allow simulating within our platform. So again, here as well, we've made sure to align ourselves according to any additions and changes that were made from the MITRE side. So those are kind of the main changes that were done so far based on MITRE V9, and we're constantly updating more as much as we can. So that's in terms of MITRE. Additionally, the SafeBreach dashboards that Steve kind of touched upon during the demo. So that's just a really exciting feature that we've released recently. It's very, very flexible. So it really provides a lot of capabilities for our users to build dashboards according to the persona that they're targeting. So of course, there are rich visualizations that are available. They're very easy to create. We've got a widget library that has out-of-the-box widgets that relate to all kinds of different relevant use cases. We have a whole section that's dedicated just to MITRE. So like Steve showed, the different widgets that had to do with MITRE. So those are all out of the box. You can also, of course, create your own. Everything is very customizable. But as I mentioned, this customizability is really useful when you have many different kinds of personas. You know, you have your CISOs and you have your high-level board of director executives. And obviously their questions are going to be different than the questions that are asked by an analyst or a question that's asked from a member of the threat intelligence team. Each one kind of has different questions that they would like to answer, and the fact that the dashboards make it so easy to access the data from the simulation results and organize it in a visual way that answers your question, it really makes it a really powerful tool. Of course, it's also exportable, so you can easily share it with whoever you want, but really just the fact that you can either create very operational reports that have, very specific information that's interesting for some personas, versus you can also create very high level executive reports that answer the questions that, CISOs are worried about. So that's part of what we aim to provide as part of this feature. Great. So we've been busy these past few weeks, and there are a bunch of other exciting features that have been released. I'll just touch upon them really quickly. And if you have any additional questions on any of these, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to provide some more information. So agentless lateral movement emulation, this is a new capability that kind of helps our users emulate what would happen if, given that an attacker is already within a certain segment, what other areas of the segment they would be able to access. So kind of providing an answer to if an attacker is able to infiltrate my network, where would he be able to go? Which is a question that is often very troubling. We've also added some test-centric analysis. Oh, I'll also note about the agentless lateral movement. This is part of what we call advanced actions. So these are kind of more realistic simulation capabilities that are available within the platform. You don't have to use them, but you can if you want. It's just kind of they're contained in a different category just because they are more realistic and may impact the environment in a bit of a different way. But these actions allow us to create new kinds of attacks that are more realistic and kind of emulate the real attack behavior in the wild. So as I mentioned, test-centric analysis and navigation, the ability to stay in the context of a specific test as you analyze, kind of easily navigate between the different analysis and prioritization tools. This is just really helpful if you're interested in running a specific test for a specific use case and then kind of following through without needing to constantly renew your filters. There's a SafeBreach add-on and a SafeBreach app for Splunk that have been developed to allow displaying SafeBreach simulation data within the Splunk dashboards. So the add-on kind of brings the information in, kind of creates the integration between the Splunk app and the SafeBreach information, and then the SafeBreach app for Splunk allows kind of creating the visualization layers within the Splunk dashboards. FIN7 attack sequences. This is another kind of advanced action that we've added, and this is also it maintains the process causality and kind of creates a real sequence of the various steps that FIN7 specifically are known to use. And lastly, we've also added a lot of new integrations. So SafeBreach integrates with a very wide array of third-party controls. And we've just recently released a large batch. We're constantly working on enhancing the list and adding more controls, but lately we've added integrations for Microsoft Defender for O365, Tanium Threat Response, MAC3 EPO, Google Chronicle, Azure Sentinel, Tenable Nessus, and there are a bunch of others. So that's a constant effort on our side. So as I mentioned, I'd be happy to provide more information if any of these features are interesting. So feel free to reach out after the webinar. And I believe now I'll hand it over to Tomer, who is our
Hi, Shira. So let's go ahead and take a pause here. We do have a question. Maybe we can go ahead and answer here. So before we move over to Tomer, so the question is, can you please provide more details about how a risk score is determined?
How a risk score is determined? So you mean like in terms of what we saw in the MITRE heat map? I understand. The risk scores that we see in the MITRE heat map and in other places in the platform is the prevention score. So this risk score is calculated based on the percentage of simulations that weren't blocked in your environment. So these are simulations that SafeBreach carried out and was successful in carrying out these pretend attacks. So that's kind of an indication for understanding where within your environment you need to focus your remediation controls and make sure that you're blocking what you want to block. Of course, we also allow closing the loop once you carry out any configuration changes to block these simulations. You can easily rerun the tests that you were previously looking at and see how your risk score is improving and how your environment was able to now start blocking things that it was previously not blocking. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. So feel free, everyone else that is on the call, to keep on sending the questions in, and we will answer them as we go. So now I'll go ahead and we're going to pivot into recent additions to the Hackers Playbook, and I will turn it over to Tomer Bar.
As you saw, we have a very rich Hackers Playbook with more than 20,000 attacks. And the attacks are in all operating system, Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and also with cloud environments and Dockers. We can simulate almost any attack. And we also have a very quick SLA for emerging threats, major events like US Cert Alert. US Cert is part of the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and once in a while they publish alerts about an emerging threat. We'll give an example later on. And we are adding coverage to simulate these emerging threats in 24 hours. We had more than 15 alerts in the last few months or so. And we are also having other sources covered. Today we covered an alert from the Australian CERT and from FBI and other sources, threat intelligence sources. We also have the opportunity to be a contributor to the MITRE attack, and we published new attack, original attacks that were qualified by MITRE. Move on. So an example for a US Cert Alert, it was actually published during May, so it's a fresh attack. I'm sure that you have heard about the dark side ransomware because it hit the headlines due to the attack on a critical infrastructure in the US, the Colonial Pipelines Company. They are active since late 2020, but only now they hit the headlines. But they've done a lot of damage elsewhere, all around the world, in manufacturing, legal, insurance, healthcare, and energy sector as well. The attack vector is not fully known, but there was usage of RDP, Cobalt Strike, which is a commercial tool similar to Meterpreter, if you are aware of it, and they also used PowerShell script. We analyzed the attack, and in 24 hours, we released 10 new simulation attacks. that included exploits, the ability to simulate in a safe manner the deletion of a shadow copy, which is the Microsoft mechanism to allow you to go back to different snapshot, previous snapshot that the system is taking automatically, and it will allow you to go back to the time before the file were encrypted. So the ransomware actor want to prevent you from doing that, and they delete the shadow copies before encrypting the files. So around 50% of all ransom actors actually implement this technique in their malwares. So we mimic it in a safe manner because there is no way we verified it with Microsoft. There is no way to back up the shadow copy. So we found a way to do it without a risk and with a lower risk. And also communication with the C2 servers. And we already add 27 attacks that were relevant to this threat group before the alert was even released. Let's go on. Okay. So you can see the report in our platform. It's called a non-attack series report, which you can check in the checkbox. You can select in the checkbox above, and you can get all the attacks and run it via one click. So there is a button in the middle. You can just run all the relevant attack and get a report of your coverage and your mitigation level of this attack. We also release audio recording that explain in a few words about the threat and our coverage of it in those 24-hour time. So Shira mentioned the advanced actions that we added recently. So I would like to elaborate more about it. So in SafeBreach, all the simulations are totally safe. We called our company SafeBreach because of that. So each simulation is, if it runs on a real computer or a lab computer, it doesn't matter. We are reverting the state of the machine to the real machine to the previous state before the simulation. So if you are adding a file that during the simulation will mimic the malicious behavior and it's creating a file, we will remove it in the revert stage. And of course, if we will add a registry key, we'll remove it. If we'll create a process, we will terminate it, and etc. So the system goes back to the same safe state after the simulation is over. So, and the simulation are as accurate as possible. And we added advanced action, which are more accurate. And in those advanced action, we are using real exploit, real malware. We are interacting with real C2 servers in order to make the simulation as real as possible. But you will run those simulations only if you specifically select to enable them, because we don't want to risk you, and you can decide if you want to only enable one category and disable the others, and you can select on which computer simulators you want to run those enabled advanced actions. So you can decide that you are enabling all the advanced action, for example, on a lab computer, and you won't allow 1, 2, and 6 on a real computer. So it's all on your control. And we added 6 more advanced categories. I will give some examples. So we have attacks that allow you to perform a lateral movement via different mechanisms, different protocols, like remote registry, WMI, and WinRM. Those are Windows-based lateral movement without even having simulator on the target machine. So it works without like a real attack, without the communication between two simulators. The second one is the FIN7 attack sequence. We have an end-to-end attack that starts with, like FIN7 attack, with the initial access step, where you send an email to the target machine with an attachment with a malicious macro inside a doc file, and it is automatically opened in the target machine, and the macro is enabled and run, and then it will download and execute the PowerShell script, which will download the JavaScript malware of FIN7, different malwares. We have different attack sequences, and then it will do the malicious action like screen capture and other system information exfiltration. And you can see if and when your security controls take effect, if it's the email gateway at the first stage, or the antivirus, or endpoint security, or the IPS for the network simulations, and also for the DLP for the exfiltration. Other thing, I already spoke about the volume shadow copy. We added attack for Active Directories, which are very common and can cause a lot of damage, because in a single command you can get all the computers that are inside the domain and users inside the domain without the requirement to be administrator. You can do it as any user, a regular user. We added ELSA's memory dump, which is techniques to extract credentials, rogue credentials from Windows memory. And we also added a very advanced exploit. It's called the zero logon exploit, that allows a regular user to become a domain admin, which is the most strongest user in Windows domain. And it allows you, by sending 256 packets to the domain controller, to have a new user with a blank password, and you can from there do anything on the network like the domain admin. So until now we had the zero logon for in a regular simulation. So the target simulator was Linux, and we sent the real exploit packets, but because of the target was Linux, it was a network security control simulation, and it was totally safe. So we added the Windows component, so you can also, if you choose to enable it, you can see if other controls like the Windows log or antivirus can also have a second layer of protection or not. Move on.
Thank you very much, Tomer, for that information. We're going to go ahead and we have a couple other upcoming events that we wanted to show you before we get to the question and answers. Please feel free to submit those questions if you have any. So a couple other webinars that we have coming up are focused on how to operationalize threat intelligence at a scale to reduce cyber risk. Brian Keim, senior analyst from Forrester, will be joining Yotam from our Vice President of Product at SafeBreach, and together they're going to be presenting the Threat Intelligence webinar with Forrester. And then on June 22nd, we're going to be presenting COVID-19 vaccine delivery under global attacks, how to identify, quantify, and remediate attacks on the vaccine cold chain. And that is on June 22nd. All the webinars that you can find will be under safebreach.com/company/events, and we'll provide those links to you at the end of the webinar. For more information, you can visit us at safebreach.com and learn more about recent US Cert Alerts and vulnerabilities. You can find it under safebreach.com/blog. And to learn about our latest releases, you can go to safebreach.com/product/latest releases. If you'd like to request a demo, we have a link here, go.safebreach.com/request-a-demo.html. So let's go ahead and get to the Q&A. So let me pull up some of the questions that we get quite a bit here are around, like what is the coverage around the MITRE ATT&CK framework? How much should we cover? And the percentage of that, the percentage around the MITRE ATT&CK framework that we cover is right around 60 to 70% of that. And then again, you can apply those filters and export it to JSON as we shown in the demo, and then upload it into the MITRE framework navigator. So some other questions that we get about are, after running attacks based on MITRE, how can I use SafeBreach for remediation purposes? So we have a module or a piece in our platform that provides insights. And these insights are aggregated issues in the environment that are pulled from the results of the attacks that are running in our environment. So with that data-driven result, we're able to apply those insights and provide remediation data, and not just one by one, but you could do what we like to call like bulk remediation. So you can group the remediations, and the data can then be plugged directly into the third-party control console, and then loop the loop can then be closed by rerunning and validating the attacks again to make sure that they have been remediated. Shira, would you like to expand on this at all?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to add that, I mean, as you mentioned in the context of MITRE, so this insights module can also indeed be filtered according to the MITRE threat groups. So if you're interested in a particular threat group, you can filter the insights to only see those issues that are related to attacks that are associated to a specific threat group. So that's kind of another easy way to be able to analyze in the context of a specific use case that you're interested in. Or you can alternatively also, if you decide that you're interested in a particular MITRE tactic or technique or group of tactics or techniques, you can run a test, that's based on those particular techniques or tactics. Those relevant attacks will be run, and then you can later kind of call on that particular test when looking at the insights. So that's another way of kind of filtering down and seeing the issues in the context of what you ran as part of the MITRE ATT&CK test that you ran. And from there, you can, of course, also take that information. As Steve mentioned, we have remediation suggestions that make it very easy to just kind of extract the remediation data, plug it into whatever security control might be relevant. That's actually the configuration change that we're carrying out, the fix. And then you can easily rerun in order to validate that your fixes were indeed successful and that they worked. So I think that's what I would add in the context of using insights for remediating in the context of MITRE.
Yeah, thank you, Shira. One other thing to point out is that the dashboards are very valuable tools when being able to show visualizations and reporting, and we're able to show the insights within inside of our dashboarding as well. So you do have that ability to get very granular with the dashboards that you want to create, and also include the insights to that. So another question is, how can I leverage MITRE to create plans that continuously test the full adversary kill chain? So from the demos that we provide and the results that we provide, we can also set up attacks that are multi-step planning capabilities. So you can set up different attacks using different tactics at different steps. So you can create an attack that would have step 1. It could then represent one of the tactics within inside of MITRE, or it could even be a technique or sub-technique that you want to set up. And then create in that same attack plan, create an additional MITRE tactic or technique or sub-technique. And then you can, since MITRE ATT&CK itself is built around representing the full kill chain, you can actually use this as the framework and as a structure for that type of plan, and create those types of plans with inside of your attack planning phase. So anything else, either Tomer or Shira, you guys would like to add to that?
Nope, I think that's a really good way of explaining it. So yeah, again, our multi-step capabilities kind of allow us to create steps that are chronological in nature and kind of can, kind of emulate the adversary kill chain by, first of all, we're talking about initial access and then execution and persistence and credential access and, and so on and so forth till you reach the exfiltration. But kind of having the MITRE tactics as a structure can really help in deciding what you want to run in terms of the chronology of the test that you're carrying out, and our multi-step planning capability allows that.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here for today. We really appreciate everyone for joining. If you have any additional questions, you can always reach out to us, and we will provide all the links that were shown here in the webinar for you, so you have that at your availability and you can contact us. So have a great day, and we'll see you soon at the next webinar.